Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube NFL prediction segment, I'm going to be giving you my picks and analysis for Week 11 of the 2018 NFL season. So anyway, first game up, I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks at home against the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is really one of those classic toss-ups or two mediocre teams going at it. You look at Seattle right now. Just 1-2 at home, but they are number one in rushing yards per game. They have won the last three versus Green Bay at Seattle. Green Bay, they're one of those classic dual personality teams. They're play great at home, but when they're on the road, they're completely different. They're 0-4. They're winless on the road this season. Right now, I mean, of course, when you're talking about a Thursday night game, I mean, the home team really can have a tremendous advantage. You have the visiting team on a short week. Green Bay, right now, short week on the road. They're just number 22 in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game. I think the Seattle running attack, perhaps especially with quarterback Russell Wilson, is going to exploit that Green Bay run defense. Aaron Rodgers always gives Green Bay a chance. I think it'll be tight, but I'm going to take Seattle at home. Anyway, next game. Well, I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons at home to defeat the Dallas Cowboys. You look at Atlanta right now. I know in the last game they played Dallas. They had sacked Dak Prescott 8 times, and Atlanta with Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, they always have a chance. They were really I would say demoralized last week and way by the Cleveland Browns. That was a road game. Atlanta's 3-2 at home, and I think Atlanta's going to look more like that team that had that 3-game winning streak prior to that game at Cleveland. I think they got a little complacent in that. Atlanta is number 2 in passing yards per game. The Cowboys are number 9 in passing yards allowed per game. They may be able to contain the passing game of Atlanta somewhat, but I think going against that kind of a passing attack offense with Atlanta, it's going to be very hard for Dallas to counter. Dallas does have a chance, even though they're just 1-4 on the road this season. That's part of the reason I don't like them in this game. Ezekiel Elliott had a phenomenal game last week. I don't know if he could do that 2 consecutive weeks and to go on the road in this one again. And Dallas is number 5 in rushing yards per game, though. I think the rushing attack will give them a little bit of a chance to get this to win this game. Atlanta is just number 21 right now against the run, but I think it's going to just be enough to help to contain the Dallas running attack. I think what's going to happen is Atlanta's passing offense is going to overpower that secondary of Dallas. I think that's going to be really a key matchup. I do like Atlanta to take this one at home. Next game. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers on the road to beat the Detroit Lions. Always a chance when you have the Cam Newton-Greg Olsen combination. They're just 1-3 on the road, though, this season, but they will be well rested. They did have that. They're going to have a 10-day rest from that game against Pittsburgh when they completely were just demolished in that game. Carolina has not lost consecutive games this season. You look at Detroit, they really are struggling and floundering right now. They've lost 3 consecutive games. They did not look good last week against Chicago Bears. Just 2-2 at home this season. They've been outscored 86-45 in that 3-game losing streak. And really, I just, with Detroit right now, just the way they're playing and the fact that Carolina, I know they had a bad game last week, but I just don't see them losing back-to-back games. I think this team is too good to do that. I think they're going to redeem themselves in this particular matchup. I do like Cam Newton and company to get this job done. I like Carolina on the road. Next game. Well, this might be the best matchup in terms of perhaps the most competitive matchup, and it's very compelling this coming week. It's going to be Indianapolis. I'm going to take them at home against the Tennessee Titans. You look at Indianapolis right now. I mean, with Andrew Luck playing, I mean, they have been playing lights out. They've won their last 3 games. The last 4 games or so, they've been like an offensive juggernaut. They are putting up a lot of points. Now, they did get shut out in the second half last week. I don't think that's going to continue into this game against the Titans. Indy has dominated the Titans with Andrew Luck at quarterback. Andrew Luck is undefeated, I believe, like 9-0 against the Titans all time. See, Indianapolis was swept last season by Tennessee. Now, Indy's going to be seeking retribution. They don't want to go down 3 in a row to Tennessee. And I think there's going to be a little more urgency with the Colts as opposed to the Titans. The Colts season could very well be on the line in this particular matchup. You have now, again, the Titans really... The one thing that may keep them in this game is they're the #1 scoring defense in the NFL. They come off a very impressive victory over the Patriots last week. The Titans are just giving up 16.8 points per game. They held New England, I believe, to 10 points last week. That was just an unbelievable, phenomenal performance. Corey Davis, the receiver on the team, is going to be very hard to cover. He'll probably win whatever matchup he's going to have in that game in terms of the cornerbacks or whoever's going to cover him. But I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think Indy right now is going to play very well with their passing offense. I'm not too sure about how the passing defense of Tennessee is going to counter with the Colts. The Colts tight ends have been really superlative this season. I think they're probably going to win that matchup with the Titans. I just think their offense is going to be a little bit too much for the Titans to handle in this one. Reluctantly, I'm going to pick the Indianapolis Colts. It wouldn't shock me if the Titans win because the Titans have been playing lights out the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to take the Colts at home. Next game. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road again, reluctantly, to beat the New York Giants. Tampa Bay, a very bizarre game last week. They had 501 yards total offense. They still found a way to lose it. They were giving up the ball in the red zone and to the Washington Redskins. They had 4 turnovers last week, but they are averaging about 26 points per game. I think Tampa Bay could put up at least 400 yards of offense against the G-Men, and they'll probably score more than 3 points in this particular game. I don't see them duplicating what they did, 2 in consecutive weeks. Now, the Giants, they come off a win last week. They have their swagger a little bit. That was against the 49ers. I call that, it was like the toilet bowl last week. Giants have not won 2 consecutive games since 2016. They're averaging about 20 points per game. Of course, it went up when they scored like 27 last week, but the Giants are actually winless at home this season. They only have 1 defensive interception. Tampa Bay commits a lot of turnovers. They throw a lot of interceptions, but it's going to be hard-pressed for me to see them throwing any of the Giants' way. They might throw 1 against the Giants, but that won't be enough to get the Giants the victory. I think Tampa Bay's offense is just going to be too much for the Giants to handle. I like Tampa Bay on the road. Next game. I'm going to take the Houston Texans to win on the road over the Washington Redskins. The Houston Texans have been playing lights out, to say the least. They've won 6 consecutive games. You have DeAndre Hopkins, #4 in receiving yards. You look at the quarterback for the Houston Texans has been playing very well, very efficiently right now. And you're talking about people like J.J. Watt and Clowney. This team, they're playing very cohesively. Everything is just starting to come together for them right now. Washington, despite a 6-3 record, I think a lot of people just aren't quite sold on them right yet. They might win the division by default, but they just don't strike really me and a lot of other people, I believe, is like a real powerhouse right now. The Redskins, though, they have lost their last 2 versus the Texans, and Washington has not scored over 23 in like the last 6 games. I think they're going to need might need a little bit more than that to beat the Houston Texans in this particular matchup. I'm not sure if they can get it. I'm going to take the Houston Texans to win this one on the road. Next game. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers to win. to win on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you're talking about retribution. Pittsburgh has this in sight, I believe. They need to capitalize right now on a struggling Jacksonville team. As many of you may know, Pittsburgh they got swept last season by Jacksonville in the postseason and the regular season. They lost both games to them. Right now, I mean, I think they're in prime position to redeem themselves. Running back James Conner has been playing lights out. Le'Veon Bell, of course, many of you may know, is not returning this season, and it doesn't look like they really need him that much. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have moved on without him. James Conner has done a really admirable, commendable job in filling in for Le'Veon Bell. Really, kudos to him right now. And the Steelers are actually tied for number one in defensive sacks at this time. They're also number 3 in passing yards per game. Wide receiver Antonio Brown, I think, is going to win that matchup. Whoever is covering him on Jacksonville. You look at the Jaguars right now. They have lost 5 consecutive games. They've been outscored 143-72. Really, they've been doubled up on approximately doubled up on by opponents in that streak. They are number 18 in rushing yards allowed per game. I think running back James Conner could have a field day with them. That really vaunted Jacksonville defense that many people lauded, including me last season, is just no longer doesn't seem to be existent. They just have 19 defensive sacks this season. I think Pittsburgh's Ben Roethlisberger is going to get ample time to throw this ball, and I think they can put up a lot of good offensive yardage in this particular game. It's hard pressed for me to envision how the Pittsburgh Steelers can actually lose it. I'm going to take the Steelers to win this one on the road. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back. Anyway, well, next matchup, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens at home to defeat the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, it's not that Baltimore's been playing necessarily great, but Cincinnati has just looked worse in recent time. The Baltimore Ravens, I talk about the ravenous defense, it's still there, at least to some degree. They are number 2 in scoring defense right now. They're giving up about 18 points per game. They're going to do whatever they can, of course, to avenge that earlier loss they had this season to the Bengals. The Bengals have dropped 3 of 4 games. Their defense has really been deplorable. They've lost right now, number 30 in total D, and they're allowing about 32 points per game right now. The defense gave up, I think, like 51-52 to the Saints last week. That was at Cincy. That is just completely unacceptable, and I just don't know if they're going to be able to rebound from that kind of devastating loss and be able to go into Baltimore, where it still may be a relatively tough place to play. And considering what after them defeating Baltimore earlier this season at Cincy, I think Baltimore is going to get their revenge on them in this game. I like Joe Flacco and company to get this done. I'm going to take the Ravens at home. Next game, I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to win this one at home over the Oakland Raiders. This could well be deemed the toilet bowl game of the week. Arizona is averaging less points than Oakland. But the thing about them right now, it almost looks like Oakland is just, right now they have lost 5 consecutive games, the Raiders. Arizona, despite losing last week, running back David Johnson had a big game. He gained like 98 yards rushing. They may be dead last in rushing yards per game, but I expect David Johnson likely to have an even bigger game in this particular matchup. Oakland's run defense, they're just number 30 in the NFL in terms of rushing yards allowed per game. Their only win was against the Browns this season, and that was a very tight game, and that was even, had kind of a controversial ending to it, as many of you may know. They could have easily lost that game as well. I think Arizona in this particular game can win with their running game and try and hope, and I believe they can dominate time of possession, control the clock, and I do like them to get this particular game. Oakland is just only 8 defensive sacks. I think Arizona's quarterback is going to have more than ample time to throw this. I'll take the Cardinals at home. Next game. I'm going to take the LA Chargers at home to defeat the Denver Broncos. The Chargers right now, are on a rampage to say the least. They just win them no matter how it is, whether it's a tight game against the Titans or whether they blow out somebody. Chargers, again, they have won 6 consecutive games. They are 3-1 at home this season. Formidable home team. They've won 2 straight at home against the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos right now, just 1-3 on the road. They're struggling and floundering. They've lost 6 of their last 7 games. And they just can't seem to really put many points on the board. The Chargers offense is just really, is stellar. It's just going to be too much Phillip Rivers, I think, in this particular game. And being at home, it's just hard for me to envision them to lose this game to a struggling Denver Broncos team. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win this one and get their 7th consecutive victory. Next game. Well, don't be flabbergasted or be in a state of shock, people. I'll take the New Orleans Saints at home to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. It's really hard to believe that the Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. They just look right now basically like a mediocre football team. The Saints right now are, I think, almost unequivocally are the number 1 team in the NFL. If I was doing power rankings, I'd put them likely number 1 right now. They've won 8 consecutive games. They almost seem unstoppable at this point. They're averaging about 37 points per game. This could go down this season as one of the greatest offenses in NFL history if they keep this up. And when you have Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, he's just, in terms of his ability and in terms of his targets and receptions to target ratio is outstanding. He catches a very strong percentage of those balls that are thrown to him. And the Saints, what we really don't hear much talk about, considering because they have Drew Brees at quarterback and they have phenomenal offense, that they're the number 1 run defense in the NFL. And looking at this, I think the Eagles are going to have a hard time trying to run the ball against the Saints. They might be able to pass adequately against the Saints. The Saints' pass defense is not nearly as good as the run defense, of course. But you look at the 4 wins the Eagles have this season are against teams with a losing record, and Philadelphia's offense has declined tremendously. They are just not. They just don't seem to be quite as in sync as they were last season on offense, and I don't think they will be likely in this particular game either. So, in this particular matchup, I'm going to take the Saints to win this one at home. So, anyway, next game. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears to win this one at home over the Minnesota Vikings. Looking at this particular game, it's hard to believe that the Bears are in first place right now. When you think of the team Chicago Bears and Minnesota Vikings, it almost automatically just seems like the Vikings should be the better team. And I can understand why a lot of people may actually go with the Vikings to win this one when you have that tandem of Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. But the thing about this is Chicago is going to be at home, of course. And the thing is their pass defense is adequate, number 13 passing yards allowed right now. They are per game or what have you, or passing yards allowed. They are also plus 13 in turnover differential right now. They are also... right now, they're averaging about 30 points per game. They're actually averaging more points per game than the Minnesota Vikings, and it doesn't seem like that should be at this point. I think most of us, majority of us out there, would have actually had Minnesota averaging a lot more points than the Chicago Bears, and right now Minnesota's averaging 24.6 points per game. Bears 29.9, over 5 more points per game than the Minnesota Vikings, So Bears have also just allowed 2 rushing touchdowns this season. What I expect in this game is that the Bears make Minnesota one-dimensional, which they basically fundamentally are anyway. They are throwing. I mean, I believe they throw about 70 between like 68-70% of the time, somewhere around there. So they're fairly predictable on offense. They're efficient too, even though they're predictable. It's still tough to stop their receivers, but I think the Bears will contain them in this particular matchup, and it's going to be enough to get this win against the Vikings. I like the Bears and their defense and their playmakers in this one to win, so I like the Bears at home. Last but not least, I'm going to take the LA Rams to win at home over the Kansas City Chiefs. The Rams, right now, I mean, it's really going to be very hard. This is a tough game to pick. I mean, there's someone ambivalent in this one. As many of you may know, that game is not going to be in Mexico City. It's going to be at LA, so the Rams actually will have a real true home game in this one. And the Rams right now are undefeated at home. They're average number 1 total offense, averaging 33.5 points per game. Their total and scoring defense is a little bit better than Kansas City's. That's really the main reason I like them in this one. They're also coupled with the fact that, again, they will be at home. Kansas City's only loss this season, of course, was on the road against the Patriots. I look at it right now. I kind of look at it like this for Kansas City. If you couldn't beat the Patriots on the road, it's hard for me to envision them beating the Rams on the road. Kansas City, however, Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, is having a magical season. He's thrown like 31 touchdown passes. They are number 2 in total offense. They're averaging 35.3 points per game. The scoring offense is a little bit better than the Rams. They will be able to keep up with the Rams. This will be likely a shootout in this particular game, but I do like the Rams defense a little bit better. I think it's just going to make enough stops to really enough to help win this game for them. And you look at this particular game. This is only this is something where many may see this as a possible Super Bowl preview. And actually, to me, it looks like it may likely be New Orleans and maybe Kansas City right now in the AFC. But I guess time will tell. But anyway, I do like the Rams to get this done at home, and Todd Gurley, I expect to have a fairly decent game in this particular one. Of course, one of the premier running backs in the NFL. I think he's going to likely exploit a Kansas City's run defense in this game, and that will help enable them to win this game. Anyway, I'm taking the Rams at home. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube NFL prediction segment for my 2018 Week 11 NFL picks and analysis. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.